Hey there, it is Simon here, and today I would like to quickly talk to you and really help you out if you are thinking about buying an electric guitar. As you can see, I've got a bit of a problem. My name is Simon. I am a guitar addict. I will speak to you in a second. Bye for now. Alright, so quite often what happens in lessons, it gets to a point where people want to try an electric guitar as well as the acoustic guitar they've got. I wanted to make a quick video just really talking about that. There really are heaps of different types of electric guitars is the short answer. And I thought this might help you out. Before we start all that though, please click subscribe and then the bell. There are lessons here on Tuesdays and on Saturdays. Saturdays generally there's a lesson. On Tuesdays there is generally a sort of gear chat, backing tracks, all sorts of things. All right, so let's sort of start it off. A roundabout history of the electric guitar is that originally there was kind of acoustic guitars, right? And then, in bands and stuff, the acoustic guitar wasn't really loud enough. So you'd have a sort of a country band and they'd have a banjo and it was way, way louder than an acoustic guitar. So at some point in the 30s or so, somebody invented the pickup. And what they did initially is they just mounted it in the sound hole of the acoustic guitar. Then they quickly discovered that sort of did this thing called feedback, where basically the sound being produced by the guitar was being fed around, coming out, being amplified, being fed back into the sound hole, and that's where you get that screeching kind of sound from. Now, over time, what happened was that they basically changed the shape of guitar. They suddenly realized they didn't need a big acoustic box anymore to amplify the sound of the strings, but rather they actually could have a very shallow body first, those things with F-holes that you've seen, like the one that Marty McFly plays in Back to the Future, that's a 335, or even better still, a solid body guitar. So these were invented in around sort of 1940 something. I'm sure somebody on the video can tell me exactly the year and day and time that they sort of started coming out. Rickenbacker, I think, were the first lot that did that. They had something called the frying pan. I think I'll try and dig up a picture of that. And as you can see, it looks a bit like an electric guitar, but yeah, like a frying pan. So really, in terms of the sounds of these things, there's two main sounds. There are these called single core pickups, right? Let's just put a clean sound on. So like I was saying, there are these single core pickups and they have a pretty clean sort of sound, right? Okay, so how they work is that they have a pickup selector, and so this is the neck pickup. It's generally a bit of a thicker sound. If you pick up your acoustic guitar and you strum it over the neck versus right at the saddle, you'll discover it's a different kind of sound. You get that versus, okay? So the same thing applies to electric guitar, and you'll find that the neck pickup is a kind of a bassier sound than the bridge pickup. Some people call these front and back pickups, whatever. You know what I mean. Generally there's at least two knobs on an electric guitar, volume and tone. Okay? Now, what I was saying was that there's basically two types of pickups. There's these single pickups, single core pickups, and there are also humbuckers, which are found in a guitar like this. So, now let's have a listen to that. And you hear that's a lot thicker sound, right? Oh, let's go here. So how these sort of came to be is basically two pickups next to each other, and they're wired opposite to each other so that they buck the hum. Because the main sort of kind of complaint that I guess people had when they were, let's be careful not drop that, using these single core pickups was, you hear that? So that is basically how pickups work, is that they exert an electromagnetic field. Physics time, people. So they pop out there, and anything that exerts an electromagnetic field gets picked up by the pickups. So you can see here, when I point it towards this light, you hear that? It will pick it up, right? People didn't like that. They didn't love the hum. I don't mind the hum, but what you give away when you give away the hum, you can hear they don't hum as much, right? So there, humbuckers. But what you give away when you give away the hum is you give away a bit of that sparkly, sparkly, sparkly top end. So that's the first thing to consider. I suppose you've got to think about what kind of sounds you like. Have a look at sort of bands and famous guitar players that you like the sound of, and see what guitar they tend to play. Most guitar players favour one particular type of guitar, I think it's fair to say, you know. And you associate certain guitar players with certain guitars, you know. Whilst early in his career, Clapton played sort of guitars like this. He played 335 and he had a Les Paul in the 60s, but then pretty much after that he played Stratocasters. Whereas you associate, you know, Jimmy Page, whilst he played on that first album in Led Zeppelin, he did Telecaster, but then after that sort of Les Paul all the way, right? So there's certain guitar players that you'll associate with certain sounds. So if you're really into super heavy rock, generally those guys play guitars with humbuckers equipped, and you know, pop guitarists tend to play Fenders or, you know, single core guitars with, because they're sort of a brighter, sparkier, janglier sort of sound. So if you think of things like, I don't know, like the Smiths, for example, that's a sort of jangly sound. He plays, I think mostly he plays a Fender Jaguar, right? So that's the second thing to consider. You know, what kinds of sounds do you want to get out of the guitar? And the final thing to consider is, I guess, the construction of these things. Right, now, this is a Gibson, and generally, I think mostly all the time actually, Gibsons have glued in necks. Now, that is a significantly harder way of making a guitar than the sort of Fender way, which basically is everything is just bolted on, right? So it's pretty cool. It's very sort of steampunk, sort of like 50s. I mean, these are all these things were invented in the 1940s and 50s, and to be honest, technology hasn't really changed that much, you know. So, you know, if I took this off, you'd see that those are just dropped in and screwed in. These pickups are screwed in. This plate is screwed in. This plate is screwed in. It's routed underneath, so it's where all the wires and stuff go to connect the pickups and the, you know, and the output. And you can see even the neck is also bolted on. So you can see it's much more like bits of parts of guitars all sorts pretty much screwed together. So the upshot of that is that, you know, it's cheaper to make this kind of guitar than the sort of glued on neck Gibson-y kind of thing. And I think, you know, that comes from originally Gibson was a instrument manufacturer from a long time ago, like they made banjos and mandolins and all that sort of stuff in the 1800s. And whereas Fender, a sort of newfangled lot, the bloke Leo Fender, I don't think he could even play the guitar actually, he's an electrical engineer. So that's quite an interesting sort of thing. Then he ended up being a guitar design genius when he didn't really play the guitar, but he was awesome electrical engineer, which is kind of cool. Think about what kind of sounds you like, what kind of music you're going for. I mean, there's always exceptions in these things, but if you're, you know, really going for a heavy rock sort of thing, you're probably not going to go for a Telecaster. If you're going for, you know, you want to play in a surf rock band, you're probably not going to go for a Les Paul. You might go for a Stratocaster, because, you know, Hank Marvin plays one of those, right, of the Shadows. And so that sort of thing. Think about your budget. these things are made all over the world. So you can buy ones made in America, sure, but they are the most expensive ones, right? You can buy awesome guitars made in other places but America, and frankly, they are really, really, really great guitars. I know, like, people go on about, oh, you must be made in America, it must be made in America. I've got guitars made in Korea, China, where else? All over the place. Indonesia, Mexico. And there is a sort of a rank which you'll see on the website. I think Fender actually makes 64 different versions of the Stratocaster, everywhere from ones made in China that you can buy for 150, 200 bucks, all the way to, you know, as much money as you have, plus your firstborn sort of amount of money. So really do think about those things, and I hope that helped. Anyway, so my name's Simon. I probably said that already. I hope you've enjoyed this little guide around electric guitars and that it has helped you come to a decision about what kind of guitar you might want to go and check out. Don't be shy to go into a guitar shop, even if you don't think you're the greatest guitar player ever. Maybe get the guy who works in the shop to help you out. What a concept, right? Get him to play. Get him to sort of demonstrate the sort of things and sounds that you can get out of each guitar. That would be pretty cool, right? Yeah, that's about it. Please do subscribe. Click the bell. There are lessons on Tuesdays and Saturdays. And if you are able to support the channel from as little as $3 a month, go to patreon.com/Simon Morell. I will see you next time. Thanks so much for watching. I really appreciate it. And enjoy the guitar. Bye for now.